How do you even know about that?
I know everything, Eddie.
You do?
Everything about you.
How?
I am inside your head. You are a loser, Eddie.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for another comic book review. Today I'm reviewing Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's King in Black Chapter 1, Reign. Obviously, this is the big Marvel event for the end of the year. It's going to be moving into, I believe, even March of 2021. So this is, I hope you're ready for the long haul, because this is a 5-issue series. It's not going to be extremely quick like Empire and Ten of Swords. This one's going to, draw out for like 3-4 months. I enjoyed Absolute Carnage, although I will say I think it would have been better suited as a Venom story rather than a big event. This is obviously the sequel to it. We found out Absolute Carnage was leading to King in Black, which is the arrival of Knull on Earth. Him and his symbiote army. We know he's got dragons and all that stuff. This is an event I've been very excited for, and I must say, I don't think this is quite on the level as I thought Absolute Carnage #1 was last year, which I thought was one of the best comics of 2019. This is still a really good comic. If you're looking for just a big, enormous event comic where you can leave your brain at the door, have some fun, see some crazy visuals from Ryan Stegman, see a little bit of fan service, things like that from Donny Cates, you're going to be very happy, because that's essentially what this comic is. It's very good. I give it 4 stars. Highly recommend. It's definitely well worth your time and a very good start to the event. Now, before I get into all the details of what made King in Black a 4-star comic and why I enjoyed it so much, I will say, if you're enjoying this video and the content on the channel and you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy these reviews. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I want to hear from you. What do you think about King in Black #1 and the event as a whole? Are you excited for it? Do you think it delivered? Was it underwhelming, overwhelming? Was it too much for you even to handle? I definitely want to hear from you guys on your thoughts for King in Black #1. Now let's get into it. We got to start off with the art. There's a lot of splash pages in this, and Ryan Stegman absolutely knocks the splash pages out of the park. This top part of this image is one of those splash pages. It's the introduction to the story. You can see it's at all points, APB out for the Avengers. Knull is coming. Eddie, Brock, and Venom can feel it. He's sending out, and they're implementing their plan. Absolutely gorgeous page. Here at the bottom, this is actually another image from later in the story. It's actually part of just a regular page. But I thought this was awesome. This is when Venom decides he's got to go confront Knull. Just gnarly page. The only problem, I don't know if it's even a problem. This is a dark event. It's called the King in Black. Knull has arrived with the symbiote army, and more until we're going to get to that. Can the comic be too black? Can it be too dark? Sometimes as the comic goes on, it gets darker and darker and darker as more bad things go on. It tends to drown out the line work of Ryan Stegman. And I do think that's a bit of a letdown. There's an equally dark event going on over at DC Comics with, an even higher profile artist in Greg Capullo on Dark Knight's Death Metal. And while that is very dark in tone, and there's certainly a lot of dark imagery, you never feel like they wash out Capullo's lines. I think it's better for it. And I wish maybe they hadn't washed out the lines, but it's a very dark book. Spoilers, by the end of this comic book, the Earth is covered in like a symbiote shell, and there's no light. So it has to be dark. So I think there's probably some middle ground, but otherwise, the art's amazing. And I do think the color artist, Frank Martin, does a good job for the most part. Could he not make it this dark? Maybe not. That's probably up to the eye of the beholder, but the art is absolutely outstanding. So many good splash pages. Ryan Stegman, he hasn't been on Venom for quite a while. Obviously, he's been working very hard on King in Black, and it shows. And Ryan Stegman, is he the best artist at Marvel Comics? I think it's Marco Cicchetto, but you could definitely say it's Ryan Stegman, or maybe Patrick Gleason. They got some pretty good artists now, if I'm being honest. Now, moving on to the actual story, when we get introduced, like I said, there's an all points bulletin. Eddie Brock puts out the alarm, and then he goes and he has a very tender moment. He's watching his son sleep. He regrets the position that Dylan's been put in. Obviously, Dylan's kind of been put through the ringer. He's one of the big introductions outside of Knull that Donny Cates has done with the Venom, lore and history, where all along Eddie Brock had a son, but the symbiote was, coercing his mind, changing his memory, so he thought it was his brother. Turns out it was his son, and his son's been in danger all along. And as we moved along, we know he has the codex in him that was passed on from Eddie Brock. The codex allows him to connect with Knull, making him very at risk. We've seen him do some crazy stuff in the Web and Venom. Was it The Good Son? Maybe it's The Good Son. I think that was the one where he's with Normie Osborn. We saw in the Planet Venom story arc where he was able to do some wild stuff and free his dad. So Dylan has an unknown power set. I think he probably, I don't know. Larry says he's the son of Knull. I think he's in the right ballpark. But he's kind of apologizing to his son for what he has to do. He shouldn't have to deal with this. And it turns out he's taken him to an underground bunker that could survive a nuclear holocaust. His only hope is that Dylan can survive it there as well. And there's a very tender moment where the blast door is shutting, and he's telling his father he loves him. He's telling him he loves him back. And you can see the sorrow on Eddie Brock's face down in the bottom right corner of that page. And he's having to say goodbye to his son as he goes to kind of meet his fate. Knull is arriving because of Eddie Brock and Venom. Obviously, at the end of Absolute Carnage, they basically sent out the signal and said, this is where we are, and essentially brought him to Earth. It's kind of his fault, and he's having to deal with that. He's put his son in danger. He's put the entire Earth in danger. And you're going to see here in a second that he's put him in a lot of danger. So there are a lot of lines of defenses. Obviously, Eddie Brock has been working with the Avengers big time. Tony Stark, Captain America, Captain Marvel have all this defenses put in place. And the first line of defense are a bunch of ships that they acquired during Empire from the Kree Skrull army that was taking on, I don't remember, the plant people on the moon. And you can see there's an enormous horde of flying symbiote dragons coming through. And Tony Stark is very confident that he will be able to hold the horde at bay. Turns out he was very wrong. So they go into Plan B. Plan B is all the street-level heroes, especially ones with any type of electrical power or electrical energy powers, led by Captain America. That does not go well. Then the X-Men show up to reinforce the Avengers. It's no longer an Avengers level event. It's an Avengers X-Men level event. And Storm is holding her own, and they come in there. That doesn't work. They also bring in Sentry, who tries to take out Knull. That does not go well for Sentry at all. He might not be with us anymore. In fact, I'm pretty certain of it. And finally, the last line of defense that they kind of have was there's this Doctor Strange thing where he's on a portal and he goes out real quick, and then Eddie Brock is sitting on like a throne that's going to allow him to connect with the hive that was left behind from Absolute Carnage, to where maybe he can control the hive. I don't know. When I read that, I was like, that is a bad idea. Maybe you'll be controlled by the hive. I don't see you, overpowering Knull. It does not happen. And Eddie basically is staring his fate in the eye. He's like, man, this is not going to work. I need to go and confront Knull. So he gives up on that plan. And while that happens, the man himself, the symbiote god, arrives on Earth in a very, very cool image from Ryan Stegman. Just very well rendered, in my opinion. And he arrives. I'm going to kill your world. There's a human named Brock that I'm looking for. Bring him to me, and maybe this won't hurt as much as it needs to. And then the Avengers, the X-Men, also in a shocking sign of continuity, we've got Elektra as Daredevil in this panel. You wouldn't have expected that. It feels like the editors at Marvel and DC never talked to the creative teams, and I'm surprised it's not Matt Murdock. Apparently they were talking to each other. That is a good sign, people. maybe Marvel continuity won't be completely screwed going forward. But Knull does not take the Avengers, the X-Men, or any of the street-level heroes, the Defenders, seriously. And he basically just starts walloping all of them, and they begin a hasty retreat. He starts enveloping the world in a symbiote shell, cutting off the light. We knew that was going to happen from the end of, what was that, Venom Beyond, the last issue of Venom, when Eddie and Dylan returned from the alternate universe that they were in. There was no light, and there is no light. And the only source of light after this is, well, not the only source, but the major source of light left is we've got Storm, like patrolling the city and providing light as people are struggling. But you can see it on Tony's face. You could kind of see it on Charles's smirk. The realization that all hope is lost. There is no hope left. Knull and his symbiote army are too powerful, and he's not just bringing symbiotes. He's not just bringing dragons. He's bringing Knull-infected, symbiote-infected Celestials to Earth. And I think there's 4 or 5 of them. So it's no small threat. And they, like I said, the defenses fall quickly. They confront Knull. He basically lays a smackdown on him, says, "Bring me Brock, or this is going to hurt." They obviously decide to resist. He exterminates the light, which is Storm, rather easily, and it is not going very well at all. And like I said, during this, Eddie's like, "I got to go face my maker." And you saw that image from when I showed the art. He's like, I got to do it. They're here for me. They're not here for you guys. I'm going to save the whole planet. He only wants to kill me. Is that the Brock he was talking about? No, that is not the Brock he was talking about. He confronts him. He's like, "Hey, I recognize you. You killed one of my dragons. I thought I killed you. Huh, you're still alive." And he rips the symbiote out of him. And he's like, "It's me you want." He's like, "You? Well, no, I want your son. First, I'm going to rip out... First, I'm going to take my child out of you," as he rips out the Venom symbiote. And then he says, "I'm going to take your child." Obviously, it is Dylan Brock that Knull wants. He's not all that interested in Eddie Brock. Makes sense. Eddie Brock is just another symbiote. Yes, he has protected Earth. He's very powerful, and certainly they've done wonderful things. But Dylan is connected to Knull. In the alternate timeline, Dylan was the all-powerful entity that was controlling Earth called Codex that was directly linked to Knull. In my opinion, Knull is actually Dylan from another timeline, but we'll see if that ends up being true. I think that they've hinted at that enough that it's probably a red herring, but I hope that is the case. I think it would be cool. Probably Larry's probably more likely correct that Dylan's actually the son of Knull himself. But he rips it out. He says, "I'm going to go and kill your son," and then he tosses him, and that is the end of the comic book. Like I said, this is a popcorn comic book. It's a popcorn flick. It's a big summer action comic book. If you're in for action and great art, and you want some cool things happening here or there, this is the comic book for you. It's a lot of fun. Now, I'm going to talk about something before I wrap this up. Marvel did it again. Well, it feels like it's a Donny Cates thing more than Marvel. They released a secret variant for King in Black #1. In place of the Hulk that's on the regular variant, the Thing is in there. They did something similar for Absolute Carnage #1, where they did these blood-splattered variants with various titles throughout the Marvel line. Didn't tell the retailers. Ends up causing a big stink. I'm going to bring Perch on here for a couple of minutes to talk about it. Our thoughts on the secret variants, whether it's effective, what is it actually, what is all gained, and then I'm going to wrap this up. So Perch, I remember back in Absolute Carnage, they did the blood-spattered variants, and we talked about this might be a new marketing strategy for Marvel moving forward. They haven't done it so much, but it feels like this is a Donny Cates marketing strategy. Obviously, they did the blood-splattered variants for Absolute Carnage. They did a secret variant for Crossover, and now we have another secret variant for King in Black #1. Obviously, on the left is the normal cover with Hulk right in the middle. On the right is the secret variant with Thing. This is a cool concept, but they do not allow retailers in on the secret, and they get undershipped, and invariably it ends up causing retailers headaches.
Yeah, I don't think this. I mean, from the company's perspective, they talk about how this is a fun little treat. We're going to put little Easter eggs in, sort of, into a comic, give something special for the fans as a kind of a collector chaser. But it's a pain. Like, of all the things to worry about, this one is not additive for anything. I think it does boost a speculator kind of collector market, especially for stuff like this. I mean, the swap between the Hulk and the Thing is not significant. It's going to be something that collectors will have, and it'll be a more special, a more rare issue. But like you said, this is a case where now the retailer has to decide, what goes into what box, depending on what comes in, and
do you
how they're
even
going
want to give them to the customers? Do you want to hoard them for yourself and sell them on eBay? And maybe people with pull lists don't get their comic books,
which is exactly what shops will do and are doing. And I think that's, so I think this is subtractive. I've never heard a good argument for why this level of variant is a good idea. And these secret variants are help anyone. I know that there's some fans who like them. It's part of the hunt of chasing down these comics. But the only positive bit that retailers have on this is exactly what you said. They will then turn them to flip them for a profit and hopefully regain some of their costs from other books that aren't selling. And that this as a solution to that is absolutely the wrong solution.
Yeah. So once again, Marvel did a secret variant, and in LCS, retailers are going to have to choose which customer do I love the most? Which one gets the special, more rare variant? Because obviously the customer is always going to want the super secret one.
Yeah, and in talking with a friend yesterday, they were doing exactly what you said. They were giving the pull box customers the regular version, and they were packaging up all of the secret version to go sell. And that was what they were doing. And I think that's scummy in a different way. But what are you going to do? That this whole practice is built for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's in the minds, I think, of the marketing department. It's probably like, oh, this is going to create buzz. Yes, initially it will create a little bit of buzz, but you're kind of screwing over your business partners, and eventually, ultimately, you're kind of screwing over your customers, because the people that have been invested in, Venom and Absolute Carnage, that want these covers, they're going to get outbid by speculators.
Yeah, it's the wrong kind of buzz. It's unhealthy buzz. It doesn't benefit anything. So I'm not a fan. I know there's some people probably listening to this right now who love kind of seeking these things out. And if you do, that's cool. But there's so many better ways to reach out to your fans.
I couldn't agree more. And Perch, thank you so much for just dropping by for a couple of minutes just to talk about this as I wrap up my King in Black review. I personally enjoyed the comic. Were you on board as well?
Yeah, I think as events go, it's a nice, straightforward event without a lot of deconstruction, meta commentary. It gives you what it promotes. And so if you like big kind of summer blockbuster type action events, that's what you're going to get. That's what you're being advertised, and that's what you're going to get. So it's solid. Yep.
Get your popcorn ready.
Get your popcorn. Exactly.
So I do want to say thank you very much to Perch for coming on and joining me, just talking about the secret variant stuff for a short period of time. I'm not a big fan. I don't think many retailers are big fans. I think it ends up causing them a lot more heartache than good, as far as I'm concerned. But that is my review of Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman's King in Black Chapter 1 Reign. A very good entry. Not quite the blockbuster balls out Absolute Carnage #1, but a very good comic. The art's amazing. Might be a little bit too dark. I do think it muddies out the line art of Ryan Stegman by the end. But we get some really great moments. The Avengers fall. The X-Men fall. Everyone falls before Knull and his army of symbiotes, dragons, and celestials that he's brought to Earth. And he's come for Dylan Brock, not Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock has had the venom ripped right out of him. He's a mortal man now. He no longer has his other. How will anyone survive this? The entire world is covered in darkness. This is an enormous event. I bet there are 50 tie-ins to this. It is going to be going on through the first week of March, I believe. I imagine by then there's going to be another event announced by Marvel, maybe 2 or 3 events announced by Marvel by then. And special kudos, shout out to Marvel for having some continuity. And Elektra's Daredevil is in this comic book the same week that she was revealed in Daredevil 25. There you go. What do you guys think? Are you big fans of King in Black? Issue 1, did I undersell it? Did I oversell it? Were you thoroughly satisfied? Can you not wait for the next King in Black issue? I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be fun. Now, it is completely hopeless. I don't see how they can win, but obviously they're going to win, right? Right?